Hello, did you miss me? Today I'm going to talk about the 11 books that I read in September, and I'm super happy because I've never read so many books in a single month. I know a lot of booktubers read 10 books every month, but this is the first time for me and I'm super happy. I love stats. I hope you love stats because I'm giving you some stats. So I read 5 books by a male author, 6 books by a female author, 2 contemporaries, 1 romance, 2 mysteries, 2 science fictions, 2 historical fictions, 1 non-fiction, 1 Christian book, my first one in the year, 1 middle grade, 1 adult book, 2 YAs, 2 were purchased by me, 4 were library books, 2 were ARCs, and 1 was a beta read. I was very excited to talk about this one because I really enjoyed my beta read, but the author told me to hold my review for later until he has a publishing date. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Switch. I got the ARC from McAlla, and in here we follow 2 women, one that is 20-something and the other is 79, almost 80. Lena is an overachiever and she has a panic attack in the middle of a presentation, and Elaine is recently single because her husband was cheating on her. They both have wake-up calls and they switch their lives literally. Lena goes to live to Eileen's house and she takes all of her responsibilities, and Elaine goes to London to live in Lena's flat and she also takes all of her responsibilities. There is a theme that hits me very close to the heart, and Lena had a sister but she died of cancer before the book started, so this is not a spoiler. And it is a very predictable story, but it is very wholesome and exactly what I needed at the time. I love old ladies in real life, and in this book they were just so funny and they had the best phrases. And I think there should be more books with elderly people in them. Now, the first book that I read I kept for later because I really didn't like it and I didn't want to start on a negative side. And I'm talking about a Pulitzer winner, and this is All the Light We Cannot See. That's right, I didn't like this book, but first I'm going to tell you what this book is about. It's about Marie, a blind girl in World War II, and Werner, a Nazi soldier. And somehow their destinies intertwine, and I was really looking forward to it. Marie escapes from Paris and she goes to live with her great uncle, and Werner is not completely okay with everything that his country did during that time and everything that his friends are doing. I love to cry. I love to cry with books and movies, and I was really looking forward to bawling with this book, but tears never came.
It's not like it has feelings.
And even though this book is in World War II, for the vast majority of it, I felt that nothing was going on. I mean, we're reading from the POV of a Nazi soldier and a blind girl in World War II. Even with that, it was very hard for me to put the book down at any time, mainly because I think I was expecting it to get better and I was dying for the time that Marie and Werner finally got to meet. And if you don't want to spoil yourself, simply close your eyes. I'm going to show you where they first met in the book. There's also 2 timelines, and that really didn't work for me. Because, for example, if something very excited was going to happen, if you were doing it with just 1 timeline, you already knew, and in the second timeline they didn't make such a big deal of it, and that took away the excitement for me. Also, the prose was so flowery that at times I found myself wanted to skim through the page, and that never happens to me. And also sometimes I had to read a paragraph or a sentence twice, realize that life is short, and simply go on. It also lacked emotion. For example, a major character will die and the chapter would just finish. Whoever loved that character will not reflect on it, and it was just like, okay, I don't feel anything if that character doesn't feel anything and the chapter is just done. What can I do? The third book that I read, I devoured because I really liked this one. And in here we follow Nate and Brenna that were sweethearts. Nate's dad is accused of killing Brenna's dad. Imagine that your significant other's father kills your father. That is definitely a very good reason to break up. This is the first Christian book that I read in a long while, and I really want to read more books like this. I just enjoy fiction more. So if you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments below, or if you're looking for a recommendation, here is a great one. I almost cried with some of the scenes. There's a little plot hole in the book, but I'm not going to tell you about it here. If you're really curious, you can go to my review in Goodreads. I always link it below. The next book that I read, I also got as an ARC on NetGalley. It is a self-published science fiction, so if you're looking for a self-published book, this is a great choice. In here we follow Athena, a girl that is living in 2099 and men have gone extinct. There is a project, an experiment going on that wants to bring men back to life, but somebody steals it, and Athena is the only one that can get it back. It has a very interesting concept that is called Happiness Profile, and this is a service that basically tells you from each choice that you make in life, which is the one that is going to take you to your major goal and ultimately make you more happy. This is something very interesting for me because I think that if people really knew what really made them happy, we would save ourselves so much trouble. The ending has something very specific that I don't like, but I'm not going to tell you about it, but just be aware. My next read is Sperm, and here we follow Lisa, a 20-something girl that is looking for a spare room in London, and she finds one in the perfect house. She also finds a suicide letter from the tenant before her, and when she asks the landlords about it, they say that she is the only one that has lived in that room. She tries to discover the truth, and obviously someone doesn't want her to discover the truth. And honestly, I wasn't expecting a lot from this book, and I guess that's what made the plot twists that more shocking to me. I was going to give this book 5 stars, but in my opinion, the climax is solved very conveniently and it is very rushed. My next read is Power Moves, and this is a book that motivated me to read more motivation books. See what I did there? So this is written by a guy that is an expert on power, and he talks about the different kinds of power, and my favorite chapter was about women in power. And I really learned a lot of it because obviously there's not enough women in power, and it's mainly the system because, for example, a boss is looking to hire someone and he has 2 prospects, and one of them is a boy and one of them is a girl, and he goes golfing with the boy, he goes to brunch with the boy because he doesn't really feel comfortable going with the girl to all these places because of sexual harassment and that, and he doesn't want to be seen that way. And in the end, he's going to pick the man because he's the one that he really spent a lot of time with. El macho. It's not really the boss's fault, it's more the system's fault. And that's something that the first step, if you want to change it, you have to understand it. It's one of those books where you simply want to write everything down. My next read is Conjure Women, and here we follow daughter and mother before and after the Civil War of the United States. Both timelines have their pros and cons. For example, before the Civil War, our con is that they were slaves, but a pro is that Mabel, whose mother, is seen with respect because she's a Conjure Woman, and at that time medicine was not very accessible, especially to black people. And after the Civil War, Mabel is already dead, that's a con. Rue was free, that's a pro, but all of the village thinks that Rue is a witch, and that's a con. Also, Rue has a very complicated friendship with Verena, and this is her master. I found here some of the most real and deep characters that I have read all year long, and it has such a beautiful prose, almost as beautiful as Where the Crawdads Sing. It has a little bit of magical realism, and that really didn't rub me the right way, but if you enjoy magical realism, here's a great choice for you. It has at least 2 plot twists that I wasn't really expecting, and literally gave me goosebumps. And all of the story, you're given little bits and pieces of the puzzle, and when you finally see the whole picture, it feels like a punch in your face. what a good one. My next read is The Devil All the Time, and basically we follow twisted characters doing twisted things. They don't really have a goal, it's just seeing crazy people during their everyday life until something happens and Arvin, who is our main character, gets a goal. Some of our twisted characters is a priest that pours live spiders to his face and a couple of serial killers. I expected so much more of this book, especially because of the movie's hype, but I think that success is really because everyone was curious to see all of these bad characters. Talking about the movie, I really enjoyed Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland's acting. Wonder was my first middle grade of the year, and I think that this is one of those books that everyone has to read, whether you're very young or you're very old and mature. This is going to teach something to everyone. Here we follow Augie, a boy that has a malformation on his face, and that's only the only thing that makes him different. And because of this, he has always been homeschooled, and one day his mom suggests that he goes to regular school, and he's really afraid because he doesn't want anyone to see his face, but he learns a lot of life lessons that are going to warm your heart. This is told in also some other points of views, and I think this is very important because you not only get to see how Augie is changed because of going to the real world, but you also see how Augie affected everyone around him in a positive way. My next read is One of Us is Next. This is the sequel to One of Us is Lying. And in here we have a copycat of the gossip page, but this one turned it into a truth or dare. And if you're smart, you're going to choose the dare until these dares start turning deadly, literally. I really fell in love with one of the characters. His name is Knox, and he is such a cinema role, and there should be more people like him in books and in real life. Honestly, I didn't read the synopsis, so I was expecting something a little bit more like the first book, but I was pleasantly surprised. That's all for today. The secret phrase is September wrap-up. Write that in the comments below so that I know that you stuck until the end, and that will make me very happy. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next week with a new video.